The draft is over. Commanders got a whole lot of new picks, new players. I'd argue they got better. I think the key to all of this is Jaden Daniels. But as we get into the serious nitty-gritty of day 3 of the NFL draft, we got 3 new players to break down. There's also another quarterback, an undrafted guy, but that's an interesting scenario. Let's have a podcast. What up, everybody? It's JP Finley. It is Beltway Football, brought to you by Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. We ride with them. I want you to do the exact same thing. Mitch, I'm deep in the I got to figure out a new car business. This lease is up in June, and it's end of April. So we're getting there, getting to the finish line.
Are we leaning Corolla or are we leaning big car again?
I don't know. I don't know if you're aware of inflation, Mitch.
I am.
But it's a thing. It's a real kick in the old ass. So we'll see.
The girls are growing up. I mean, you don't have
car seats to get a job.
No, the car seats aren't. You don't need car seats anymore. You might be able to fit a couple extra kids in a Corolla now that there are no car seats.
I don't want more kids, Mitch. I don't want to fit more kids.
Your girls and their friends, not more kids. I understand that.
I've been to V-Town. There will be no more kids.
You like the process of it. You just don't like the end result.
There are more kids at my house. There's just some serious discussions to be had. Yeah, I'm up with the process. Done with the result. All right, let's talk about things. Commanders had 3 picks on day 3. For timestamp guy, it is Sunday, 6:57 p.m. Big man is playing quite hurt. He's sick as a dog, and that's why we're coming to you Sunday night. I also was running around yesterday. I went out to the draft party at National Harbor. Shout out to all the people that were there and said what's up and listen to the pod and listen to the show. Always fun to kind of get the hang. The weather sucked at the draft party. It was Saturday, so it was cold and rainy. And I think that mood would have been bumping had they had good weather. And then today, Sunday, is perfect. If you're watching on the YouTube, I am in the Caps room at the Monumental offices. I love this room. I got this wall of hats behind me. Headed over to the Caps game. Starts at 8. We'll start there. Do you think we're going to New York Wednesday, big man?
I think the good folks who like to listen to this podcast are going to get a Mitch and JP podcast from MSG or from New York at some point on Wednesday or Thursday, because the Caps are going to win tonight and force a game 5.
I don't, but we'll see. So let's get into it. I've really liked what Peters has done thus far. I think, kind of most people do. I think there's a lot to like with all these guys. You get to Saturday, man, and you're just trying to identify traits you like, guys you like, and just if you want to be critical that they came into this draft with a hole at left tackle and they believe Brandon Coleman can answer it, but there's some question about him. Like, I think that's a legitimate discussion. But when you get to day 3 draft picks, like, you just hope these guys are on your roster and make your roster and are part of this thing for the long term. And now you've got the advantage of larger practice squads and stuff, so you got a little more room for development. You want to start with Jordan McGee?
Yeah, and you're also, keep in mind, you're drafting a lot of guys that you hope are going to be able to help you out on special teams and be kind of the back end of the active day roster, at least, early in the season. But yeah, we can start with Jordan McGee.
5th round.
5th round, pick 139. He's a linebacker from Temple, or went to Temple. He actually grew up in Maryland, went to high school in Dover, Delaware, and didn't necessarily grow up a Commanders fan himself. But after the pick, I asked him if he was excited about playing close to home, and he said a bunch of his boys who grew up Redskins, Commanders fans were quick on it, texting him, calling him, getting in his mentions about how they're excited that he's going to be here and be back around home. But here's what Lance Zierlein said in his draft profile on him. He said there are occasions when it can be tough to discern between McGee's instincts and his willingness to take aggressive tracks downhill. He'll avoid run-fit responsibilities at times, but will also make more plays near the line of scrimmage. McGee lacks ideal size, but plays with great strength and aggression, and is able to bounce off bigger bodies to find his way to tackles. Essentially, it sounds like he's a guy who's, going to have to learn a little bit under Bobby Wagner and Frankie Luvu and get a little experience, but he's an inside linebacker, and he's a guy who's not scared to stick his nose in there and make plays. And he is a special teams guy at Temple, and I expect that they're going to expect the same out of him when he comes to DC.
The athletic testing, and we saw this with a lot of these guys. Coleman's athletic testing was through the roof. Senate's athletic testing through the roof. Mitch, I don't know if I talked to you about this. Do you remember Friday night? We were kind of discussing Coleman's height.
Yes.
I got a text Saturday morning, 8:49 a.m. Now, I got to be honest. I don't know that this dude listens or if somebody that listens relayed the question to this dude, but this dude very, very much matters. And I got a text 6'4" and 4/10.
6'4.5".
6'4.5". Yeah. He can go. And they are very excited about Brandon Coleman's athleticism. 6'4.5", official. Now, I say that because Jordan McGee, if you consider his athletic testing, I got this from someone named Justin M. NFL on Twitter. He said, new Commanders linebacker Jordan McGee was among the most athletic linebackers in the draft, finished tied for first in his 10-yard split, third in the broad jump, 10'4", fourth in vertical at 35.5 inches, and fifth in the 40 at 4.55 among all linebackers in this class. So I think that kind of continues a trend of super athletic guys. Now, the path to a roster spot, I mean, Wagner, Luvu, they signed the other Pittman, right?
Yeah. Jamin Davis.
Certainly Jamin. But if these guys, there's a path to a roster spot, but he's got to be really good at specials.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably keep. I think they would keep 5 linebackers, probably, right? I mean,
yeah.
So if it's Jamin, Bobby, Frankie Luvu, and Pittman,
might be 6.
Yeah, that 5th spot.
10 D line, 9 DBs, 6 linebackers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, depending on unless they consider kind of some of these, the box safeties as kind of half linebackers, and
what is chin?
Right, exactly.
I mean, whatever. We don't have to crunch roster spots.
Right.
There's a lot to like there. He seemed like a good kid. The quasi-local angle is at one point completely irrelevant, but also kind of cool. You know what I mean?
It's entirely irrelevant. It's just, to me, I think it's cool when these guys get to. I think for star players, when they come back to DC, I think it's a really tough situation. And, I don't give John Allen a ton of, flowers, on this podcast that often, but he has done a really good job of, kind of keeping the noise out when he was here. I don't know that it worked that well for Chase when he was here. And, if you look at Kevin Durant and, that's superstar status, but when you look at guys, can be tough. But
hang on, a little bit of breaking news.
Oh,
you got me?
I got you.
Schefter says the Eagles have signed Mekhi Becton 1-year deal up to $5.5 million pending a physical. I know there were some Commanders fans hoping that maybe they would go sign a guy like Becton now. Nope. And Philly did. So Cooper DeJean and Mekhi Becton to Philly and knock those guys to Washington.
Yeah. I mean, listen,
they're signing their swing tackle, whereas people here were like, he could probably start.
There's a reason the Jets were willing to kind of let him go. But yes.
I
mean, there is.
Right.
There are some left tackles out there that are available. I mean, but it's just not a particularly strong group or group that has shown any propensity to be able to stay healthy while they're out there. So, I mean, I would be surprised if they don't add something on the offensive line in the tackle situation from one of these vets, either that are out there and a free agent now, or might become available as a late roster cut. But we saw in free agency there weren't a lot of left tackles that were available. The draft, it's been reported now the Commanders tried to move up twice. Tyler Guyton was one, Jordan Morgan was the other that they tried to move up for. They weren't going to overpay to go get one of those guys. And as much as you wanted at 36 or 40 to take a tackle, I think we talked about in the last pod, you saw that the NFL kind of showed you what everyone thought about this group of tackles because the left tackle, the left tackles that were there started going later and later and later. So, I do believe they'll add somebody. They just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, and guys are going to get released
Right
in the coming weeks here too.
Next up in the 5th round, pick 161 was Dominique Hampton, safety out of Washington, and he's another guy that is just a high superior athlete, rates really high in the RAS. He's a guy who they think can fit well because he's big into he's a ball hawk and loves to go after the ball. Ultimately, probably a special teamer to start because there are a lot of young secondary guys there. But he's a dude that's not particularly big, but does have a enormous wingspan. A 6'7" wingspan on a 6'1" body is pretty strong. Arms that hang down to middle of his thighs. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of him.
Dude, I understand the pandemic and like the series of events that landed in this like bizarre world kind of. He played college football for 6 years.
Yeah.
Not 5, 6. And like played every year. Like it wasn't, I mean, he played 3 games his freshman year. Like he played every year. I guess maybe he was under the threshold of redshirt as a freshman. The athletic testing is there. He certainly had some. The 6 years of college football just kind of blows my mind. He last season 2 picks, 7 pass breakups. You start looking at that safety position. So you add. It sure looks like with Sanistril that Quan Martin is a safety now and not a possible slot corner, right?
Yeah.
Curl left. Like you start to make sense of it. Like, I mean, if he could play, he'll have a real opportunity, I would say, because Sanistril is definitely not a safety. Like that's just not what he's going to do. So you've got Forrest, Reeves, Quan,
Jeremy Chin,
but I mean, he sure seems like a box guy.
Percy Butler.
Yeah, Percy. I think there's going to be some turnover on this roster from spots maybe we're not expecting. From like previous draft picks that kind of seem comfortable that like just might be a lot less comfortable than we think.
I like it because you have a guy who's a little bit of a ball hawk and bigger body guy, special teamer. It's tough. It's tough to have Jeremy Reeves as leader of your special teams units. It's tough to have 2 safeties on the roster that are primarily going to special teams, not be quite ready to see the field right away. But I guess 6 years in college, who knows? I mean, maybe
he's seen a lot of football, dude.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, he played. Help me with the math here. 15 and 12 is 27. Another 10 is 37. Another 8 is 45. Playing 45 high college football games.
Well, let me tell you,
doesn't seem like that many.
Not in 6 years. That's what is that?
No, but in 2020 they didn't play because
of
COVID, and he only played in 3 games as a freshman, and then another 5 games. And just looking at his college football reference page, he goes freshman 3 games, freshman 5 games, sophomore 1 game, sophomore 9 games, junior 12, senior 15.
Must be nice to spend 2 years as freshman, 2 years as a sophomore.
He must really like Seattle.
If you like guys with 6 years playing in college, you're gonna love their 7th round pick.
Right,
Javante Jean-Baptiste spent 5 years at Ohio State, 1 year at Notre Dame. Put 5 and 1 together. That's math that even this podcast can do. That's 6 years in college. Reading about it, sounds like he's a little bit of an undersized edge rusher, but
the frame is slim, but he's got good length for sure.
So these back end, especially when you get to the 7th round, but 6th and these day 3 guys are usually a little bit of a shot in the dark from folks and hoping that they develop. But we've seen 7th rounders come in and play pretty well here in Cam Curl. So what's to say that Javante Jean-Baptiste isn't going to be the next one?
Yeah, I mean, he clearly has high major college football ability to go Ohio State for 5 years and then Notre Dame. Like, he's not playing at Cal State Fullerton and then transferring. Like, he was a big deal recruit. That frame is skinny. Maybe he's a situational pass rusher down the line, but they also, if you think about what they did to address the end, they traded everybody away. We all know that, Young and Sweat, and then they signed these veterans, but only Armstrong has a multi-year deal. Like Fowler and those guys are going to be gone or maybe re-signed, but they're at least going to be free agents. So maybe this is like a development guy that just stays on the roster for you, but regardless, even if he's a practice squatter, like there will be opportunity down the line for some of these guys. And I think like Farrell and Fowler are both on 1-year deals. KJ Henry's on a rookie deal. Andre Jones on a rookie deal. They did bring back Obata. It's going to be interesting to watch that because if you look at I would think Ridgeway's on the roster. Potato, he was a practice squad guy most of last year. Payne, Allen, Mathis would be kind of interesting at a certain point. Like, is the production guaranteeing the roster spot at this point with new leadership? I don't know that answer.
I think they keep one of Ridgeway or Fedarian. And I wonder if Ridgeway coming from Dallas, maybe, Joe Witt and company know him a little bit better and maybe they like him. Who knows? But I think they'll keep one of those two guys. And as we talk about edge rushers,
Newton's obviously on there.
Right. But what I'm saying is that we think of edge rushers, we're thinking of Chase Young, Montez Sweat type ability or type of players. And there's nothing that says that, we know that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt like to get a little creative with their guys, that they won't line up John Allen on the outside a little bit on some, obvious pass rushing plays and have, some deep fronts that have all of Allen, Payne, and Johnny Newton, all on the field at the same time. So, I know they didn't address it just like left tackle. They didn't probably address edge to people's, likings. But I do think that at least on this side of the ball, that there are some different things they can do with how they line up the guys and what they do with them to get them there.
Take your time. Big man's playing hurt. The other thing, as a specific edge conversation, I highly doubt there's a sports book that will offer odds on this. But if I could get odds on Luvu as their leading sack total, I think I might like that. Like if it's, who would it be? Armstrong probably, then like Payne or Allen.
Yeah.
And I mean, what is Armstrong's career high in sacks? Dude, you realize in 2 seasons, Fedarian's played in 11 games?
Yeah, he's hurt all the time.
How many tackles do you think Fedarian's got in his career?
20. 18 and a half.
8.
Yikes.
Now, Armstrong didn't get the work, but in the last 2 seasons, he had 7.5 and 8.5 sacks. You got to figure Armstrong is the leading sack total guy next year. Leading sacker, we need like a better term for that.
I like sackers.
Right.
I feel like we're invading York, the sacker of York.
Sacked Terrytown. Yeah, I mean, he's going to get the opportunity. He's going to be on the edge. I'm curious about Luvu.
I don't think he's gonna. I'm not talking about him in terms of sack leaders on this team, but I could see Sanders still having multiple sacks this year too, coming off the edge, rushing. He did a fair amount in Michigan, and I know that the Dallas the Joe Witt group loves to get after the quarterback. So I could see one of those slot guys trying to get in there.
Set it at 2.5. Which way are you going?
I was hoping you would set it at 1.5 because I would definitely go over.
I figured you would.
You know what? It's April 28th. I feel like today's a day to be bullish. Give me over 2.5.
I don't want to bet. I don't want the other side of that, but I would
Yeah.
certainly take that wager.
What do you set Frankie Luvu's sack total at?
So I just pulled him up. 5.5 last year, 7 the year before that. 6.
So we set it at 5.5 and see where we go from there.
I was saying you set it at 6, so 6.5.
Set it at 6.5.
I don't want to be on the wrong side of those because I think 6 is your number.
All right.
I think does Armstrong get to double digits?
There will be a double-digit sacker of York on this roster.
All right. I want to wait and do a full pod on the undrafted guys just because those guys deserve their shine. Astute listeners, people that are fans of football, undrafted guys make the roster damn near every season. Like, it's almost a lock. There'll be some undrafted guy that makes the roster. So I wanted to devote some actual time to that. But the one name that I thought we had to address was Sam Hartman. Wake Forest, then Notre Dame, quarterback, great head of hair. I fear this is the end of Jake Fromm's time. Peters said he wants 4 quarterbacks. Peters has now acquired 4 quarterbacks. If you look at Jaden, obviously, Mariota, they signed Driscoll, and now they've added Sam Hartman as an undrafted free agent. You're not keeping 5 around. And I imagine there was some level of competition to get Hartman. So I think you're looking at they want 4 for camp, and I think Jake Fromm's the odd man out.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. Sam Hartman's an interesting guy just because he's,
Handsome.
Sure. There's a radio show in town that is going to talk ad nauseum about
those dudes love talking about dudes.
They really do. There's few that like to talk about. But yeah, listen, I don't think he's gonna. I hope to never see him on the field as a Washington Commander. How about that?
Sure. I think that's the plan. I wonder if he's good, what that would do for Driscoll. Like, if you're only gonna have 3, and one of them's gonna be like a quasi practice squatter anyway. I wonder. Driscoll's 30. I don't know. How old is Jeff Driscoll? What if Hartman shows you enough? Wouldn't you rather have a young guy? Although, hell, these guys are playing 7 years of college football. Maybe he's not that young. All right, so Driscoll's 31. How old do we think Sam Hartman is?
23?
24.
24.
And I've kind of been saying this. Nora Princiati had a really good story on The Ringer about how college football is just getting older and people just got to deal with it. Sam Hartman also played 6 years of college football.
There you go. I think there's one other free agent or unrestricted free agent that they signed. I think we got to mention is the Colorado State corner.
I say we save it and do an undrafted portion of
Chigozie Anosium. They gave him a $300K. They gave him a $50,000 signing bonus. They gave him $300K salary. Apparently, half the league wanted to sign him after the draft when he went as a UDFA, and the Commanders paid up to make sure that they would sign him, and they went and got him. So we'll see. Go ahead.
To me, that's like a Sunday draft story that becomes a thing. But remember, that was Mason Brooks last year, and I don't think he ever saw the field. Did he play week 17, maybe?
No, he didn't. I was yelling for him to play and see the field. Here's what NFL.com says about.
If I may, you're sick as a dog. I've said repeatedly, let's do a UFA pod and not do them today. And you're
okay. I wanted to go in on the one extra guy that they paid up for. Fine. After the draft, Lance.
Go ahead now. Go.
Oh, we're good. After the draft, Lance Newmark addressed the media, broke down what they did in the draft. You'll listen to that.
I wasn't done. There's other stuff besides.
Oh, well, fine. Then let's get to your other stuff.
Mitch is sick. Everybody should send Mitch a thank you note for grinding this out. I'm back in the office. I'm back drinking the free soda. I like it here. Very comfortable here. I also decided this is like an unofficial. This is unofficial. All right. Of any of my various employers. I'm now at 7,800 YouTube followers. YouTube subscribers is probably the right term. Does that sound right? At JP Finley DC.
Yeah.
I just got this comment from Rob. He says, your audio blows. Sorry, Rob. But I decided when I get to 10,000 YouTube subscribers, we're just having a keg party. Like an old-fashioned, like I'm going to buy a keg. I don't know where it will go. I'm hoping my boy Tony T at the Pug will let me just like purchase a keg from him and we could just go. And Mitch, here's my thought is that like if 10 people show up, we got some serious drinking to do. Like we got to finish this keg. If 100 people show up, it'll probably be a more measured approach. But we're going to have a keg party at 10K. 10K keg party.
I like it. I am a big fan of all of these meetings. And to be honest, I hope no one shows up so that we're just ripping keg stands all afternoon. But
there's no beer that pours better than keg beer. Like when you're just pouring your own beer out of a keg, you can drink 40 of them.
I totally agree. It might be the best beer available. It's from a keg. A nice cold keg.
The last keg, were there kegs at your 40th birthday?
There was a keg, yes. There was.
I feel like the last keg I drank from might have been that. Or was Sully's birthday party after yours or before yours?
I think Sully was before mine.
Because he was May-ish.
Yeah. Did we have kegs at Sully's? We did, right?
Yeah, because we were watching the Derby.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So he rigged the gambling game for him to win on his own birthday. That's right.
All right. Now, do you want to run this Jahan thing or do you want to save that? I know we got a lot of stuff.
Let's run Lance Newmark, which is about 10 minutes or so. And then after that, you can hear from Josh Harris, who did an availability on Friday before the second round started. So it was mostly about the first round pick, his involvement, his lead up, what he's seen behind the scenes, everything that he's kind of learned about this team since he took over the ownership group.
Cool. There you go.
Let's go Caps.
Go Caps.